regular meeting and workshop of the City Council of the City of Bandera to order, January the 2nd, 2020 at 5:30 p.m. All council members are present, the city administrator is present, the city secretary is present. Number 2 on our agenda is invocation and pledge of allegiance. Will, would you lead us in prayer, please?
Most gracious and loving Heavenly Father, thank you for bringing us all together this evening. We ask for your blessings upon this new year, as well as the Bandera City Council. Thank you for bringing us all here safely, and I ask that you get us home again safe. Lord, thank you most of all for your Son, who died upon the cross for our many sins. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, visitors to be heard. Item 3. Patricia, what's on your mind tonight?
It's real simple. I think we've all slept since I made this other PSA announcement at your last city council meeting right before Christmas. Next Tuesday, January 7th, 9 a.m., if you're so inclined, YOLO Texas will be making a presentation of the programs and offerings that they have. BEC meeting room, 9 a.m. Bandera Electric Co-op.
What day?
January the 7th. It's a
The
Tuesday.
7th. I have written down the 9th. I'm glad you clarified that.
Yes, January the 7th.
At what time?
9 a.m.
Yes, ma'am.
At BEC.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Patricia.
Thank you.
I'm really
Patricia.
looking forward to it. That's something that we've been talking about a lot.
Well, they have done videos for cities that would be for economic development. Obviously, you've seen the tourism style programs, and I know they also have other types of equipment. So, I told Erica Grimm, the Vice President of Marketing, give us your whole spiel. We're not making any commitments at that meeting, but we would all have a feel of what they do offer. Okay?
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome, ma'am.
Okay. Item 4, discussion of possible action on the following items. Item A is approval of a professional services contract with Bo Mansfield to do a survey of the entire city for $6,000. Jay, are we ready yet?
We are just waiting on the paperwork, but I did speak to him again the other day. The price, of course, is still honorable by him, and he said he would get me the paperwork as soon as he went back to work.
So it is $6,000.
Yes, ma'am, still $6,000.
Council, at this time, you could approve the administrator entering into that contract unless you have other discussion.
Were there any other, I'm sorry, then we'll put her out.
I'm just gonna say, move to approve, but, and I guess now we can open it for discussion.
I'll second.
Were we getting bids from anybody else, or you just feel like Bo Mansfield is?
I reached out to, I believe, 6 other surveying companies around the area, Hondo, Kerrville, Bernie. No one else responded.
I think this is a great idea to get it done, because we really do need to establish our ETJs and where exactly they are. It's something that's needed to be done for a long time, so I think it's a great idea.
I don't know when the last survey was done for the city limits, but, you know, things move, whether you want them to or not. People move signs, people making a map maybe move it a little bit, not intentionally sometimes, but they do get moved. But this will give us definite points to where we can work off of.
And when we establish that, are we going to be sending letters to residents that are now in the ETJ and maybe didn't know they were in the ETJ? Or? No? Okay. Well, all right. Fine.
Rebecca?
Without having the actual service contract to approve, though, we don't really know what the scope of the work and what all will be included. So to approve the expenditure without seeing the service contract is a little bit.
I think it's fairly clear, surveying the city is surveying the city.
Well,
Survey
what's
the
the
boundaries of
product?
the city limits. And once you establish your city limit boundaries, of course, then you can define your ETJ boundaries off of those.
Glenn?
Can I assume then that like on the main highways and stuff, there's gonna be some kind of permanent
There'll be
marker
there'll be
and on the
pins.
street so we can
Yes,
more accurately.
yes, sir.
Yeah. Thank you.
And I'm really glad to see this happen, and I know we can't mark every street with a purple line all the way around the city, but it's confusing when you go, especially out like toward Bandera Estates or toward Indian Waters. Where does the city end? Where does the ETJ start? Which end of Bandera Boulevard is in the city? Which ends in the ETJ? So, thank you. Yes, Jay?
Well, once we get the boundaries, then we can have, usually the CAD will make a map, and it will define them according to the new points is where everything is.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor? All in favor, none opposed. Thank you. Item B, amendment to orders 342, Chapter 3, Building Regulations, Article 3.07, House Numbers. Lynn,
Yes, ma'am.
you wanted this on the agenda. What do you want to do?
I guess I'd like to make a motion that we approve the amendment to ordinance 342, chapter 3, building regulations, article 307, house numbers.
What amendment do you want to make? We haven't even discussed an amendment yet.
Is that not what's?
I thought this is what we had here was the amendment right here in
No,
Exhibit A.
that's the ordinance as it stands right now. No amendment has been made. I didn't know, I don't know what you wanted to do.
So this is the
Oh,
This is
existing
the current
ordinance.
ordinance right now.
Oh, okay, so we don't even have anything, an amendment to look at.
Well, what did you
To the
want to
ordinance.
amend is the question.
Okay, so here's what I think we need to get done in the city of Bandera, and however we have to, get to that, then I'd like to make an amendment stating that everybody needs to have their house number on their residence, posted in an area that can be seen from the street. The other thing that seems to have been a problem is that the addressing that we have does not correspond with the address for rural addressing. And I know that Keeley and rural addressing is working closely to make sure that the addresses are the same, that throughout the city of Bandera, that they coincide with what the, so I guess
So far, I haven't heard you say anything that's not already in the
already on
ordinance.
there.
Yeah.
Okay,
But-
so then
It sounds-
I'm a.
She has
I
the
guess-
floor. Go ahead, Lynn.
Okay, so, I've looked on here too, and I thought we had already approved this, and I thought, we'd already approved the consequence of not having your, numbers on your house, so I guess, do you wanna start enforcing the ordinance?
There's nothing that's enforceable for this ordinance, and I asked Will to address that with you tonight. We have approved this amendment. We approved that, yes, everybody should do this, but we cannot force them to put numbers on their houses as this ordinance is standing. Will, you want to explain that, please?
Yes, ma'am. There's no consequences. The ordinance says you shall do it, but there's no consequence for not doing it in the ordinance.
Well, it says a penalty here, any person violating any of the provisions of this ordinance shall be deemed guilty of a Class C misdemeanor
That's
upon
not
conviction.
Not in mine and not on the website.
On this one it is,
Not
the
in
one
mine.
The
sitting
one
in front of me.
he signed.
Which one have you got?
Yeah, it's.
Yeah, it's right
5
here.
unit autos for each offense, and a separate offense shall be deemed committed upon date, during, or on which violation
Oh,
occurs.
within the body of, okay, hang on.
So, I guess, it doesn't need to
The
be
one that's
amended,
on
it
the
just needs to
website
be
and in my
enforced.
code
Yep,
book
there
does
you
not
go.
have that language at all. So we certainly need to get that rectified then.
So, this is,
No clarification needed, that's the ordinance.
Yes, Rebecca?
Where does it, sorry, something just got in my eye. It says that the city is gonna put numbers up if you don't have numbers on your house somewhere.
No, it does not say the city will. It says the
Okay.
city may choose.
numbering by the city.
It's not.
At the city's expense, at the city employee's expense.
So you didn't see, you don't have the same one that I'm looking
No.
at? Okay.
The council may, if they deem advisable, officially number the houses within the city for such purposes. may employ persons as they deem suitable, and it also says there will be no charge to the home owner. All the expenses on the city.
So,
I'm not changing
what I would
that.
like to know then is if you've looked further into this and you're saying that we can't force people to put numbers on their houses, then why didn't you just say that before you said, Lynn, what do you wanna do?
I told you that at the last meeting.
No,
but
I
yes,
did
Glenn,
not
you
hear
weren't
that.
listening.
Okay,
And
I'm
that's
not
when Glenn called point of order, because I was discussing it with you when you actually brought it up. Yes, Glenn?
I was just wondering if we'd be better if we wait till after we get the city limits defined and ETJ. I don't know, are we gonna, is this part of, is fall under sign ordinances too, or is this something else that we would have jurisdiction over in the
It's
ETJ?
in the building codes, subdivision codes. So, you know, we can amend it to require, well, everybody,
Well, my advice is what we have published is, it has nothing about the penalty, it has nothing at all about it.
So,
I have the exact wording from the website, from the city's website about the ordinance,
Yeah,
and
the
it has
penalty-
nothing about the penalty.
the penalty part needs to be in the body of the ordinance, which is published online, not just in the resolution. Yes, Glenn?
I would like to suggest that we table this till we get it straightened out and bring it back to the council.
It's not online though,
okay.
so.
A little more clarification, please.
Okay, so I will take this to our attorney and tell him what the problem seems to be and get a clarification. Is that, yes, Rebecca?
Is it, or what you wanting to see happen is that there's a fee assessed if the city does have to go put the address up so that it's not at the expense of the city?
That's council's decision. If y'all wanna back charge them for the cost of the numbers, put it on their water bills, for instance, and then charge them whatever y'all deem, because this is council may, you know, then y'all pick up, $5 a house, $10 a house, and let them go do that if that's what y'all wanna do.
Lynn, would you please withdraw your motion and we'll let them get a better proposal?
Yes, I
Get more
withdraw my
detail.
motion and I withdraw my motion.
Thank you.
Then moving on, thank you, Lynn.
Well, I was gonna
Sir?
move to table this until the next meeting, but
I'll second.
if you wanna just let it ride,
If you wanna table it, I'd rather postpone it, if you would. We won't let it drop off the map. But, our attorney's out of town on vacation. I may not have anything ready by the 16th. So if y'all would agree, we can schedule for the 16th. If it looks like we're not gonna have anything, then I'll reschedule with
okay,
council
when
permission.
we get to the end, then we wanna put stuff on the agenda that we'll address it.
That how, good. Does that work? Okay. I'm going to recess the regular meeting at 5:43. And at 5:43, in a few seconds, I'm going to convene the workshop. Item A is discussion of amendments to Bandera Economic Development Corporation bylaw. Okay, I've had a couple of weeks, everybody had a chance to look at the bylaws, come up with things that they wanted to change. I like to start at the beginning and go all the way through to the end. Lynn, you have some things you want to talk about?
Well, first of all, I would like to address this letter, this email sent to you. I don't know what date it was sent or who it's from, but I'm assuming it's from the EDC committee, talking about the changes that they would like to discuss. Because, okay, can I finish? Because I received this.
That's not the bylaw. That is not the
But
bylaw.
I'm saying this right now. I received this at the last meeting at the spur of the moment, so I did not get a chance to see the changes that they were already discussing to make.
I understand that. That is the processes and procedures.
Okay,
That is not the bylaw.
okay.
So we'll take that up. As soon as they have made their changes and they bring them back to us, once they're prepared, this one is, because the way this works is, They make the changes, they approve them, they bring them to us, we approve them. And then the changes become changes. Unless we don't like it, and then we can direct them to change something. But as it looks to me, they're doing everything that we've asked them to even consider doing as far as limits and time limits and amount limits, but that's
Yeah,
the
according
procedure.
to this,
Right.
according to this, that
But
was
we're
said.
talking about the bylaws right now, and I think the one thing that I heard over the last few weeks would be, the only thing I've heard about the bylaws is on page 5, 1.03, the corporation administrator, that the BEDC can hire an executive director and an assistant director, secretary, and admin assistant. The only thing I would like to see is that the director and the executive director be positions that are approved by council. Other than that, I don't have any problem with any of that. I don't know how y'all feel about it, but I think that's something that we should perhaps have a look at.
So I guess to add to that, I agree with you on that. Regarding the bylaws, I guess the contracts on page 6, I would like to see that the full board review the contracts. I'm talking about the ones, and I guess that this falls under the bylaws. I know that it's been said before that they didn't want the attorneys to draw up a contract because it costs too much money, and then if the council doesn't approve it, then that's money wasted on the contract. But I would like to see the contract and possibly have the full board sign the contract, or possibly an official on the EDC board, the president and 2 other officials on the EDC board. And I would also like to add our city administrator. I would like for the city administrator to be part of that.
Well, our city administrator has nothing to do with the EDC board's actions. We don't get to approve it, we don't get to disapprove it unless it's over a certain amount. So they're a separate entity, they're their own little corporation, literally. So our administrator can acknowledge it as in approved as to form, but not content. But it wouldn't do any, he has no official say in the contract one way or another.
But can we have a signature of acknowledgement? Can there be a signature of acknowledgement that he has seen it and that he's part of the city and the city oversees?
But he has no say-so in it. The administrator doesn't oversee EDC, the council oversees EDC.
What are you trying to, what's the goal of what you're
Yeah,
trying to
what's the goal?
accomplish? Like, what are you trying
I just wanted someone from the city, so maybe it could be a city council member then, that signs, is the other signature. I just want the city to stay on top of the things that the EDC is doing a little bit more closely, is all that I wanted.
Okay.
What's been hidden from this city council? I don't know if anything's been hidden from us. We're welcome to go to their meetings and listen to all their discussions, and it's still brought to us for approval in most cases, when it exceeds the limit. And I just don't understand. The EDC was set up originally as an independent entity, We are part of the city system, but it was designed to function separately for a reason. So why are we dead set on trying to fix something that's not broken? I don't get it.
I wouldn't say it's not broken. Both the city council as well as the EDC over the last 3 years has had significant changes for the better, I believe. So I don't know if wouldn't say it's not broken, I'm not saying it is. But we've found some things, and they've found some things that they've decided to tighten up to help make things more efficient and to help things from slipping through the cracks. And I think that's where we're heading. And I can't speak for Lynn, so I don't want to sound like I am. But I think there's some things that need to be tightened up. Here as well, don't get me wrong, I'm not.
Excuse me, Lynn, Lynn had her hand up a minute ago, do you still want to speak?
Well, I guess this is also part of the bylaws is the $10,000 project. I mean, it mentions it on page 13 about the public hearings. And I don't know if I could talk about this now, please stop me if I do, maybe it's process and procedures. But I would like to see when people submit applications, and that might be process and procedures, so stop me and we'll have another workshop on process and procedures. I thought we were gonna be talking about everything tonight, not just the bylaws.
So just the
That's
bylaws
fine.
and the agenda, and I wanna stick with the bylaws, because,
Okay.
again, I want them to have a chance to make their changes before they come to us.
All right.
Uh,
But if they're not aware of the changes that we wanna make, then how are they gonna be able to come back with us with, some changes?
They bring us a draft that they want to see.
Okay,
And I think they've heard enough of our discussion to know pretty much that where we wanna go with this too.
okay,
So they bring us a draft, then we go over it, get all the attorneys involved, get everything on the same page, and then they approve it, they bring it to us for final approval. Yes,
May I address Tony real quick?
yes, you may.
So with the things that we talked about last meeting, how's that coming along? Because that's, I think, where we're going, is trying to get those bullet points that we threw out there. You're working on that?
Well, we don't have another meeting until the fourth meeting in
That's right.
January.
Yep,
So
yep, that's right.
we haven't met as a board at all.
Mhm.
And the board has had the list that y'all have for a couple of months, and just different things, our meetings have run long, and we haven't been able to really get into the discussion, but if y'all wanna discuss anything or be a part of that, you're more than welcome to.
So now I would ask, what is it we're looking to do tonight that wasn't discussed the other night that they haven't had a chance to do yet? I mean, what are?
Because they're not working on their bylaws as much as working on their processes and procedures, which are, well, I don't have a second document,
Okay. Thank you for clarifying.
okay?
Yep.
And council wanted to go over the bylaws, so that's what we're doing. If you remember, Tony told us the comptroller had changed the date that the report is due to them until April. So originally, they had planned to present to us in February because the report was due in February. So now, I think Tony and I have been kicking around kind of February the 6th, just for a general overview at our meeting then, and then the actual financial report later.
Yeah, it's gonna be a little struggle on our part because we're not even gonna be able to look at, applications for administrative assistance, until our third week in January, because we don't have an admin right now. So right now, Laura and I are working as a team, as president and vice president, to, make sure that we aren't dropping any balls that need to be done, and, but we don't have an administrator right now, so anything that, any report that you need, I mean, we'll get you what you need. I'm just not 100% sure, as far as the report goes. I think it's not due until April, and then we'll do our report to you in February, but we'll work together on that.
Yeah, just give me a holler, we'll talk and,
Yeah,
because again, we're here to, not even the end of the first quarter yet, and we still
Exactly.
got it,
yeah,
so.
yeah.
It's me. Okay. Jerry?
If we're finished with that discussion, I'd like to go to page 8, loans.
What page are you on?
Page 8.
Okay.
I think that we need to take another look at the success on those loans and the future of potentially not doing any more loans.
That's already in their project list, so, it's come to their
Well, and
attention
I want
too.
to reiterate that,
Yep, they're,
since that's what we're doing right
Yeah, I
now. We
think
want
we're
to
all
make sure
like-
that they're aware of the things we're concerned with, right?
I agree.
We haven't done loans for a
It's
long
a
time.
trial and error thing.
You can't stop doing them, did you?
I haven't awarded, Tony's got her hand up.
Tony?
So I would really encourage y'all to be a little more open-minded at the potential of possibly coming up a situation where a loan would be a good thing. I'm not saying the ones that we tried worked, for various reasons, but there could be a situation where a loan would be something that EDC would wanna do, and if you take it completely out of our hands to be able to do it, even that we can do it at the state level. And so if you're taking it away at our level, that we no longer be able to do it, you might be tying our hands and backing us into something. Now, I know that our board is not looking at doing loans again, but just because we know what has happened, and it, you know, it could be that, you know, that maybe we put a special approval process or something in place for us to come to council to discuss our opportunity to have a loan, or, you know, whatever it is. I really would encourage you to not code us into a corner and take freedoms away that the state allows us to do. We already are small enough and have such limited ways to spend the money for economic development. I would hate for you to limit that even more, and that's just my thought.
I wanted to, Jerry, from what I understood you to say, it's not to eliminate loans, but to scrutinize them more and to be,
Right.
yeah, that's so.
I
it's
think
not-
it needs to be, I think they should come before the city council for approval. So consider it a special project, or however you'd want to word it. But I think that we need to take a lot closer look at them if we're going to do loans. Doing it more in a business manner, as far as the same requirements that a bank would require, we should be following, minimum.
Bryce, you had your hand up?
Well, no, I was just gonna say the same thing. I don't think we're trying to eliminate it, Tony, but if we could tighten up the process, and we should do it. But that, as you said, I don't know about doing the same standard as a bank, because I think some of these businesses are coming to us that may not be able to qualify at a bank level. So I don't know. I mean, that's something that needs to be vetted out and decided, but some of those banks are, it's easier to adopt a kid.
That's the point.
You can't, it's small.
You did.
Yeah.
I was just gonna mention that if they haven't budgeted to fund any loans, then they're not going to be funding loans in the fiscal year, which, Tony, you guys don't have a line item for loans, so.
No, we don't even have the application out online as a specified thing that we do. So it would be something that we came up with, if an opportunity came up and we decided that maybe a loan would be a way we'd wanna go,
Then it would have to come to council for a budget adjustment, I would.
yeah, because it's not in our budget,
Right.
yeah, so that would, I don't know.
Just want to make sure that's clear, that that process is clear.
Absolutely.
Consider it, once again, a special project to come before the city council.
Anything else in the bylaw?
2.15 uncommitted funds. I know that Lynn mentioned last week, wanting to see the EDC dedicate some
To
funds.
the wastewater and infrastructure.
And I know that both of the attorneys mentioned that they needed to look into how that can be accomplished, but it might be that we have a percentage of uncommitted funds dedicated to a certain line item project for the city.
I would like to see that.
Well, that would be something we deal with at budget time, so it's not really something we would deal with here. And
I just want to, I just.
yeah, I think it's a
wanna
great
make
idea.
open-
We're
yeah,
trying so hard to move forward on these
I
things.
think that would be good for the EDC to know that that is something that the council would like to see happen if we could.
Well-
That is one of our goals or visions, is to set some money aside for that.
Not only that, if we get this master plan rolling, it may not be by next budget, but we get a master plan in place, then we have a direction to aim some of these uncommitted funds, be it parks or greenways or whatever, but, so that will be a good help too, once we get that master plan finished and we have a guideline.
So most of my notes are gonna be on the policy and procedures, so I really don't have anything more on their bylaws. I think they're probably following their bylaws just fine. I don't have anything to say about their bylaws. I think they're following the laws
Rebecca?
just fine with that.
202 deals with the annual financial report. And I know that you mentioned that the comptroller has changed their due date. I just noticed that throughout, wherever it talks about reports to the city council, then 216 is the quarterly financial reports. But there aren't any dates in the bylaws, so I don't know if that's, something you wanna add Or, and then, wait, what was that?
Their annual financial report is their audit,
Okay.
and their audit is included with our audit.
Okay,
And then there's
But,
a
Suzanne,
quarterly report due. And
2.16.
it says audit in two different places.
Yeah, it does.
There's also the quarterly report. It's in here
2.16,
somewhere.
2.16,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
And so we've got a quarterly report coming
Yes.
too.
Yes,
So-
and then you had mentioned wanting to see specific things in the quarterly report itself, so I didn't know if that kind of detail you wanted to add into the
Well,
bylaws.
it's not so much the quarterly report as the budget. I know they're working on a different format for the budget to make it more transparent, you know, putting like line item numbers and not a bunch of zeros, and I think we're working in the right direction.
Okay.
Suzanne,
Um,
Suzanne,
Jet, or what? Tony?
I was just gonna mention that, I know there was a workshop, I wasn't on the board at the time, but, there was a workshop between EDC and city council where it was offered that we do a monthly report, with the regular reports of the other departments. And it was decided at that time that it was overkill. So, I mean, there's no reason why and we had been providing the same current budget updates that we gave to the board every month. We were giving them to the city, so if those could go out to city council once we decide what that format is. If you need more than that, I mean, we'd be willing to provide more than that, but.
And we do quarterly department reports now rather than monthly, because again, there's not really enough activity to
Right.
report every month. So, we're kicking around maybe adding the EDC report to the quarterly department head report, so I think that's a done deal. Rebecca?
301, number and requirements. I think it might be, well, I guess I just have the idea that we could add language that if someone's residency qualification changes during their term, that they are expected to step down or be removed by the board. Just a thought.
Does it not say?
Can you repeat that? I'm sorry.
Just that if you're serving on the board and your residency you no longer meet your residency requirement for your seat, that there's language about either stepping down or being called by the board to step down or what have you, that it's addressed, that
It's clear,
yeah.
because it's really not right now.
I think that's excellent because, you know, if someone happened to be sitting in the county seat and moves into the city, you know, they could move to the city seat and then open up another county resident to come on board.
Oh, and maybe something about Tony, you guys don't have any like real education requirements for your board members, do you?
Just the state, the Open Meetings Act,
Mhm.
and we encourage, we set a budget for people to go to training or take training that they want to. Like Laura and I attended the, conference, at the beginning of November, so that kind of stuff, but.
Yeah, but there's no actual requirement, it's all.
No, ma'am.
Okay.
Glenn?
I wanted to ask Rebecca if she had anything specific in mind.
No, not necessarily, but I mean, like, I'm always finding workshops and things to go to myself, and I guess it's one of those self-initiated activities.
But not degrees and stuff like that. You're talking in
No,
general.
no, workshops, education opportunities.
You're talking TML or
Yeah,
ACOG or
Continuing education.
Mhm, mhm.
Okay, thank you.
continuing
No.
education? Wait a minute.
Yeah, I can go back.
All right, anything else on that?
just up on the board.
Yeah. Anything specific on the bylaws, guys? Rebecca, you have anything else you want to do?
I have pages and pages, but I mean, I'm happy to just like type up my notes and send them to Tony also. I don't know
Well,
what.
you can't do,
It's not a direction, it's just notes. It's not telling anybody
you
what to
cannot
do.
direct her to.
No, I wouldn't do that, Suzanne. I think I know better.
Lynn?
We've been talking about the 1099s. Is now the time to bring that up?
You
Or
know,
not?
I kick that around and it depends on what council wants to do with that. Those of you who weren't in on this conversation, I have talked to our attorney, our auditor, my CPA, the TML. Our attorney has talked to TML, to Bill Longley and Scott Houston, which are the gurus. And then he got back to me, and their opinion overwhelmingly was that the EDC should be giving 1099s to their recipients. We're giving 1099s to our hot fund recipients. They suggested that you consult your attorney, of course, but the reason being, although they are a nonprofit, the recipients for the most part are not. They're business people, and this is miscellaneous income. Now, if you think about it, and I was thinking about this before I ever even brought it up. If I'm Tom's Pizza Parlor, and I got $12,000 from the EDC from whatever, and I did everything I was supposed to do, and they handed me a check for $12,000. Well, I can look at that and go, okay, well, and here's my 1099. You know what? If I buy a small car and hire 2 more people with this $12,000, I'm increasing my business, and therefore it's a business write-off. Because I've already written off the $12,000 as a business expense. So now I've got another $12,000 that I can actually expand my business and reinvest in my own business with this money to expand my business further. So that was the thinking of everybody that I've talked to. So, you know, that's something to kick around, but does it go in the bylaws? I don't think so. I think it goes in processes and procedures.
Okay.
I don't know. And, you know, until these guys get back with us and we'll see what they want to do, then, you know, we'll take it from there.
Yeah, like I said, I prepared to talk about the process and procedures, not the bylaws. I didn't really have a whole lot of problems with them following the bylaws.
Okay. Bylaw specific, anybody? Major?
Did you say? Because there might have been some things that
Sure,
I
sure.
didn't think about.
Okay.
I mean, that's why I'm here.
309 talks about exercising with business judgment, and I just made a note that this requires no evidence, there's no worksheet, evaluation, or scoring. So I just wondered if there was some way to bring some more objectivity to the decision process.
Would that go under process and procedures when it gets right down to it?
I don't know.
I don't know either. See, let's Tony's been the president since October. They've had 2 meetings, and now they've attended 1 joint workshop, and they're attending tonight. Let's give them a chance to get their stuff the way that they want it, then let us take a look at it together, or them separately, or us separately, however you as council want to do it. But I think they need an opportunity, because this is it's 7 very intelligent people on that board. And I think we have some, no, nobody ever said they weren't, I'm just saying that they've got some good ideas that they want to exercise. And I don't think we need to try to micromanage and say, you know, when they're,
I don't think
stop,
we're not, I don't
let
think
me
we're trying to
finish.
do that.
Let me finish. When they are already on the road to doing these very things that we've been talking about. So instead of us getting into detail, wait until they bring some.
What is the
detail.
relevance of this
But-
workshop?
Yeah.
Excuse
You
me.
guys asked to see it. You asked to see, you asked to go over the bylaws. Yes, you did. Sherry.
I thought we would kind of like put our recommendations out there, so when they are doing their thing, their meetings, and trying to come up with new ideas, they'd already have that input.
That was the point of the workshop for bylaws, not for processes and procedures.
So we've missed that one, we've missed that opportunity to bring
No,
those.
we haven't
Okay.
gotten there yet.
All right.
Nonsensical, really.
Okay.
This is
We're not
silly.
even there
All
yet.
right, let's make a motion.
But even like here, I thought that this was the time, if we have any recommendations or things we'd like to see different in the bylaws, now would be the time to address them.
And
But you're
that's
saying
it.
that you'd rather just give them the chance to come up with their own ideas first, is that
Well,
correct?
so far, the only thing we've actually addressed, as in addressing, was asking them to change the bylaws so that council approved the director and executive director, that they might hire, not that they appoint. And then y'all are being specific throughout the bylaws to point things out to them. Is this where you want the workshop to go? I mean, you're the council. Come in.
If Jerry has some specific points, by all means, let's let him, make his point.
Well, and that's what we've been doing.
Right, as long
Yes,
as
we
it's
go
about
through.
the bylaws, yeah, that's what we're here for.
As long as it's got
I don't wanna be
bylaws.
here on that, so let's move it.
Rebecca, do you have specific things that
I
you
sure
want to
do.
change? If you want to
I
change
have-
the bylaws?
You know what, Suzanne, I don't necessarily have anything that I need to see changed. I went through this and wrote down my thoughts. And it's several pages and I spent a lot of time doing it, but I don't need to hash it all out here. Like I said, I'm happy to type this up and just send it to you for your thoughts or send it on to the P and Z as they start to look at their bylaws. I don't need to sit here and go through it with you guys at all.
Sherry, is there something
Really want me
specific you
to.
wanted to change in the bylaws?
Not so much in the bylaws, no. I hope I'm not getting confused here on some of these items, though, as far as what could be included. Just like under using better business, using proper business judgment, however it's worded here. I mean, it's, if you had a idea such as requiring 3 estimates for any work that's performed, that would fall more under the policies, is that correct? Than bylaws, even though
Three
it's
estimates
somewhat
for who?
related.
I mean, for the recipient, it's 3 estimates, 3 estimates?
Correct. Just like you would before you had any work performed, especially on labor.
Yeah.
Well, I can see a few problems with that. You would actually be dictating to someone about what contractor they might use or something. You know what I'm saying? Because in a lot of cases, when contract bids are put out, they'll throw out the top and the lower one, and then go somewhere in the middle, so.
Right, I'd like to at least see that has occurred, that there has at least been three estimates
And then
that were
again,
looked at, and yeah, you can, in many cases, justify why you went with the more expensive one. But I think that needs to be a question that's addressed.
I'm a little bit confused. Jerry, are you talking about, for the recipient of an incentive program that the EDC required to see their 3 bids?
Correct.
Oh my gosh.
Why would you say that? That's
just-
normal course of business. You would never, as a business owner,
Jerry, I'm not
Not-
debating that, but I
Yeah.
think for the EDC to require it seems a little bit overkill.
I don't agree with that.
Okay.
I think it's just good common business sense. That's what anybody would do. Before they hand out money, a bank would require it. They're not just gonna let you walk in there and
Laura?
say you want a certain amount.
I'd just like to say that many of our recipients do the work themselves, which I believe you did, Jerry, when you got
I've
yours.
done all the labor myself. Yeah, and
But-
that's,
But, we can't dictate if someone wants to do it, their own work, and
why can we not if we're the ones that are giving them the money
so
to
would
do
you have
that?
been happy if we would have told you
I'm
could
sorry?
do your, would you have been happy? And I'm just using you as an example, if when you came to us and you were planning on doing the work, and we said, no, Jerry, you can't do that.
You gotta go get 3 bids.
Oh, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that first, that you need to see 3 estimates, and then they should give you the justification as far as why they used that particular contractor. If somebody else is especially much lower, you could even build in like a 5% margin, between the two.
Okay, wait a minute.
But I think it's something that needs to be looked at.
I've got my hand
We have
raised.
some hands up in the audience.
Yes, Lynn.
The problem I see with that, Jerry, is that, and I had that thought, so I don't wanna lose it, is that most of the incentive, funding that the EDC does is reimbursement.
Not you.
It's reimbursement, so the projects are already completed. And even if that project was, let's say $10,000, the EDC doesn't need to give them the $10,000, they could just give them half if they wanted to just pay half, but most of the funding is reimbursements. So that would make it kind of difficult for them to require 3 different bids before they would allow this business owner to complete the work at their business. That's the only way that
I understand what you're saying, but I also know that they many times are coming to you before they even start the project.
Okay, I think
In
we're off
fact,
the
that's
bylaw thing here again.
That's typically what I've seen, that they do come to you before.
I think that
And they
comes up.
should know ahead of time if they're gonna come to us, that they should get 3 estimates, just like anybody would.
Okay,
At least 2, but typically you look for 3.
I think that comes more to procedures. We're,
Tony has her hand up, Mayor.
Now, that was
She's
my
had it.
original question
She's
too.
had
Is
it
this
for a
more
long
under
time.
procedures or?
It is a workshop with the E EDCs.
I just wanna make a note, just to back up a little bit, by, Rebecca requested training. There is a section 7 regarding training requirements in the bylaws section. And, it states specifically, what it is, and so we should probably look more into that. Thank you.
okay, guys, I really think that we're not getting anywhere because we're going back and forth between bylaws and policies and procedures, and we're working more on policies and procedures. So unless you have something that is a change, not an enhance, not a, I don't,
okay. What do you want me to say, Lynn?
What is it that you want to say? You just
Lynn
want-
really
just-
wants me to talk.
Yeah, I wanna hear
Who's
it. I
running
mean,
this
that's
meeting?
why we're here for the bylaws. And if you have points on the bylaws, I think that this is a workshop and we should listen.
Oh, here's one. Prohibited acts 311. Adding, funds or commitments that are promissory in nature. I feel like I heard some type of concern from you in that regard. And so a prohibited act could be funds or commitments that are promissory in nature. 403, it's just a thought. I'm not adding anything.
I mean,
I'm just talking.
you're saying it's in addition to what's already here,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Public hearings, do we want to lower that dollar amount requirement? Do we wanna add anything about combined totals of incentives?
Well, see, that's what I wanted to address, if I'm sorry, I wanted to raise my hand. That's the things that I wanted to address, but I'm understanding that that's not the bylaws,
Under the
that's
policies.
the policy and procedures.
I mean, it's right here, it's in the
And
It's in the
I
bylaws.
Right here.
it's in the bylaws.
Proposed to expend more than 10,000 on the project. And here's my thought on that, and then I guess we can bring it up again when it's for policies and procedures. I would like to see if somebody submits applications, however many they submit, that it not go over a $10,000 amount, equal across the board. That there be, that it just be, they can't be $30,000, $10,000, $10,000, and then equal to $30,000, and they be treated as just $10,000. I would like to see them to only equal to the $10,000, and if they don't, then that needs to come to council.
So $10,000 cap,
Well, that's what we already
Total.
have.
I mean, per
Per business.
individual or business, per application, per,
No, because that's what they have already. What I'm saying, okay.
I think I know what you're saying.
Cumulative total
Understood.
with all the projects.
Like
Accumulation
10,000 for
total.
incentive, plus 10,000 for infrastructure, plus 10,000 for employee
They
training.
can only get 10,000, so
Okay.
they can maybe get
2,000
2,000
a
for.
year, correct.
Yes, Rebecca.
I don't know that that's what I was suggesting. It had more to do with if the sum total of multiple incentives is greater than 10,000, that it would then need to come to council for approval.
I think that's what
Is
we're
that-
saying.
That's where she's going.
Okay.
It's Jared.
On that same note, so I know that certain building specific, not necessarily business to business, different bids put in at different times, and I think I've heard this as a concern, that, for instance, the building that I had submitted EDC on had already gotten stuff in the past. If the building owner submitted for $9,000, got that, you wanna put in a time, wording for a time frame that if that specific building or that specific business had gotten something in the past, that would also then add up to, say, for the last 2 years. And that way you can see if somebody's just submitting an application for $9,000 every 6 months that wouldn't necessarily come before the board, or if they're, so you can see some total over time.
Well, EDC is already looking at that,
That is one of the
attached to the
things.
property, not the business or the business owner, but to the property, as far as infrastructure or whatever's facades, put a 10-year before they can reapply, or 5 years before they can reapply,
Well-
something of that nature.
I didn't mean to reapply, but say with the WOW building, the owner had done
got
a
20,000.
grant prior to my business partner and I submitting to the EDC. And we were looking at different grants. So if he had done one for 9,000 and then we come in a year later and we're submitting grants for 9,000, then you're matching it to that building and you can say, okay, now that building total is at 18,000. Now it should come before city council to make sure that everything's actually being done in a way that reflects the master plan of the city and what you're trying to accomplish with those funds.
It sounds like they are addressing some of that,
Yeah, I think
Correct.
so.
so.
Yeah.
It's true, we are addressing that is definitely one of the things that we're looking at as far as looking at the property. We've had a lot of issues with, where the property was owned by one person and the business by somebody else, and, you know, who do you go into the agreement with regarding incentives? Some of it's clear, but some of it not as much. The one thing I would like to address again is, don't code us into a corner. You know, don't say we can't give somebody more than $10,000, because look at what they did on 11th Street. The partnership that David Heap and the Joneses and the DeWolfs had together, they have restored some of our original buildings from Main Street, and they've done an amazing job. That was our original Main Street in Bandera. And we all know that in order to keep your price points in Bandera competitive and our fluctuation in business in our town, it's very difficult for a little business to keep competitive prices and stay in business and maintain their buildings that are made of wood and that, you know, that have great fluctuation of weather as far as, you know, wet and environment. And so I am very proud of being a partner and proud of the money that we, you know, we incentivized them to do a little bit better job. We incentivized them to put in ADA compliant stuff in an old building. And now Ohio Silver is stepping up and doing the same thing and joining into the whole deal. That to me is ideal, as far as what we can do to keep our uniqueness and not look like a cookie cutter town when everybody's gonna want to, because it's easy, we all know it's easier just to tear these buildings down and start new, but then we start losing our history and you start seeing more metal buildings. Nobody wants to use wood anymore. So there's a lot of things. I'm not saying that we shouldn't control some of it by address, but again, don't make our bylaws to the point where we can't do something that's really beneficial for us in the long run.
So, are you saying, thank you for that, Tony, and I agree, I mean, those 11th Street looks great, and I wanna tell you again that I did not get this letter until the day of our last workshop. So I did not realize that you guys on the EDC were already working on a lot of the points that were, so I had no idea about that. But what I do want to say is I think that maybe there could be some special circumstances when it does come to the historical buildings that the EDC funds, you know, that, and that maybe at that time, that could come to the council if it's gonna be over the 10,000, that come to the council.
And that would be a good provision to add to the bylaws, where it comes to historical buildings, but then we have to define historical buildings. So, yes, Bryce?
I don't think anyone's painting you in a corner, Tony. I think we're just trying to,
I would like to ask, what buildings have we done that to that weren't historic? I mean, what buildings have we done where there hasn't been more than, I mean, we are conscientious about every decision we make, and some things, I'm not gonna tell you, we did everything right. We tried some stuff and it failed, and I can guarantee, we've talked about it. And so, Lynn, you're at the majority of our meetings now, you hear us talking about these things, about how did we get here, how do we keep from being here
And you're right,
again?
Tony, but there was a lot of the process and
speak.
procedures done that I wasn't aware of, that I see that you are already doing, like more signatures on the
we're a board
agreements,
of
and that was
7.
not brought up at an EDC.
Mayor, can we have some order, please, so we can hear what
I
she's
don't know
saying?
who has
Tony
the
has
floor, I
the
thought I had the floor, so we're a board of 7, we take our job very seriously, and if the council, each individual council wants to micromanage what we're doing, just because you're not aware of something that's happening does not mean it's not happening. So, that, you know, you really have to be very careful, and I said this in our last workshop, I am all about being transparent. I mean, we all should be working together to better spend our money and to do, you know, again, I'm harping on the master plan. Give us a master plan on what's the long-term goal where you want us to spend and allocate money. And then just the last point is that, again, we do not have a paid full-time staff. You know, this is a board of 7, we are volunteers, and we are trying to do the best that we can. That is not an excuse, it's just that we are very mindful about the budget and the time that we spend on this stuff to do it right. And so, I will say it again, like I said in the last meeting, whatever it is you want to see that you don't feel as though you're getting, let us know, and we will work to be able to plan ahead and get that to you and do it right the first time.
And that's what this workshop's for.
Bryce?
what I was starting to say there was, we're not painting you into a corner, I don't believe. And then to come back and say that there's micromanagement happening right now, I don't know about that piece. That's what you said. I'm just going by what you said.
I said we could be getting to the point of micromanaging. I mean, I feel as though some of the questions that, like, for instance, you know, we are a board of 7, we don't make this decision in a bubble, we make it openly. So it's not like we're not transparent in our decisions.
That's not what you said.
But the council does have some concerns, and I thought we were gonna be able to address some of those, but it's more concerns with the process and procedures, and so.
I think that is a comment.
I'd like to make a statement. This will pretty much sum up how I feel about the funds, EDC funding. There's going to be a lot of disagreement here with the way I feel, but the city has very limited revenue. I want to see us focus the use of EDC funds towards city infrastructure. Our roads cannot wait any longer. Many are beyond patching and resurfacing. Some roads need to be totally rebuilt from the base up. We also need a new water treatment plant. Money will first be needed for engineering studies to determine the best location for this plant. Money will then be needed to purchase the land, and then more money will be needed for the construction. This is a multi-million-dollar project. We've got to find ways to direct funds to the city's immediate needs. I believe in funding advertising, promotions, facades of businesses, and assisting with their signs and permits. I do not believe in funding anything past the front of the building. I don't believe in funding things such as equipment and interior improvements, with exceptions to state or city designated historic buildings, such as the ones on 11th Street that you've done a great job on. I feel there are many reasons this system needs to change.
there's some limitations to what 501 and 505
I understand
allow
that.
EDC to fund, and, it's kind of complicated, but we'll get into that. Yes, Tony?
Again, all of that should be in the master plan, so that we have allocated $50,000, $25,000 per park, $25,000 every year for the city to ask for whatever projects they're doing. Most of the time, it doesn't get spent. Right at the end, we find things to do for the park, and we've done that. The $25,000 that doesn't get used by the city because there is no plan, there's been no long-term plan. In the last year or so, we've made great strides to have a plan, but once it gets in there, there's no reason why we can't be partnerships in that. And I know that there's been talk about do 10% of our streets every year, so that every 10 years that it gets, they get repaved. But until that's in writing and you have a big plan and you know the budget, I mean, I just feel like some of these comments are really knee-jerk reactions to chastise is a harsh word, but we're supposed to be focusing on economic development, and I feel as though we've been doing a really great job of that in 3 years. But we did have some excess funds so that we were able to do and try some things that we probably wouldn't have normally done. But there's no reason why we can't be partners in other things. Just plan them, make it be a part of the budget process, which it has not been thus far, and let's move forward. I mean, and as far as the equipment and stuff, that's a really ironic statement. Okay,
I think
the
we're
board
getting off
has, the board has
subject
said
here.
that
We
the
need to move
equipment,
on.
the board has said that the
We're
equipment is not something that we're wanting to fund unless it becomes some sort of specific situation. We're not doing new businesses and things anymore. We've talked about that as a board. So, anyway.
Can I address that?
Yes,
I
ma'am.
need to address that.
Let's keep it brief,
And I can tell you that I did, as far as equipment, and I know that has just been a recent discussion with y'all not to purchase equipment anymore. But I know that there is an application submitted and withdrawn to be brought back to the EDC for funding. And it's all about printers and computer screens and sinks
Software.
and,
This has nothing to do with the bylaws.
okay.
You need to move
So I
on.
she just brought up
Thank
the
you.
equipment again, so
Okay.
wanted to address that.
That's an individual contract. We have to get back on bylaws. We're completely off topic.
Thank you.
Yes,
Motion
thank you very much.
Thank you, Bryce.
Second.
Second discussion before we close. Yes, Tony?
I just have one thing, I really would like to see, a workshop for the city council to talk about EDC items is a good thing. But I would like to see a consensus on y'all's side and present to us a common, or at least a majority of what, if 3 of you want one thing and 2 don't, then that's still a majority and it should be presented to us as a majority. These are the things that we wanna see as a majority, not just like 5 different opinions and then us expect to do something with that. Now, I don't mind 5 different opinions, but when we get into the EDC, we're gonna take those 5 different opinions and we're gonna come up with one and suggest it back to you. So if it ends up being that opinion should have been a majority on your side and you definitely wanted to see it, then it kind of would be time wasted on our side. If it's something that you agreed upon and want it to do, why would we go and do something opposite of that? So I guess that's sort of what I was hoping would happen with the bylaws, but I'm all for adjourning and I'm all for reading everybody's stuff and talking about it openly in our meeting, if that's what we need to do.
I think we need to have a workshop amongst maybe just the city council about the process and procedures, unless you want to include the EDC.
Well, they're here, this is not a joint workshop, they're here as a courtesy.
Oh, I thought it was a joint workshop.
No, ma'am, it's not.
Oh, okay.
They're here as a
Sorry.
courtesy. And yes, once they made a proposal to the council, then we'll have a workshop on our own. Okay?
On the process and procedures.
Mhm. But I want you to be prepared to address what they've come up with, how you want to change it. The last two workshops has not gone anywhere like I was hoping they would go. So let's be prepared. Yes,
Part of that was because we didn't receive the latest info from EDC until that meeting. That's why we weren't ready
that's
to
why my
discuss
first one
it.
kind of went south,
Yeah.
yeah. But anyway, so any more discussion on adjourning the workshop? No, please? All in favor? All in favor? None opposed. 6:35 of adjourning the workshop. 6:35 and 15 seconds. I'm reconvening the regular meeting of the City Council. Item A, discussion of possible action on amendments to Bandera Economic Development Enforcement bylaws. Do we have action, council? No action at this time. Item 7. Who got shot? Request announcement, item A, request by council to place items on future agenda. Rebecca?
I made a request last time, so I'll make it again, that we discuss, potential projects for, Senate Bill 7 funding, Texas Water Development Board flood mitigation program.
Bryce?
And we keep talking about this master plan, but I've yet to, can we get some direction on where we stand with it, what the status of it is?
January the 9th at 2 o'clock, we're opening the RFQs. I made this announcement last week. Now, council, will have a scoring panel of 5. It'll be Jay, Derek, me. Jill, are you scoring?
You asked me to.
Anybody that, I mean,
Rebecca.
And Rebecca. That's our scoring panel. And so they'll be scored, evaluated, and brought back to council for selection.
Awesome, thank you.
There was also an agenda item to change the time of the meeting. I apologize, I skipped it off this one, but we'll get it on the next agenda.
Yeah, that
Anything
was-
else y'all want to see on the agenda in the near future?
are we putting EDC policies and procedures back on the agenda?
Never. I mean, yes, we will, but
I mean, that
not.
we just talked about it
No.
over and over, so I
They,
just wanna
until
make
they're
sure I
ready to
don't
present
get
to
it.
us, we're not bringing it to the council.
Okay, I'm fine with that.
The agenda item I brought up last meeting is concerning TxDOT for the speed
I thought you were gonna.
studies. Huh?
I thought you were gonna reach out to them and report back to council.
We have talked to, or I have talked to them. They need a resolution by the city council to begin those studies. Or at least that's what they refer to it as.
Are you aware of that, Jay?
I'm aware of the process, yes, we can get that done. Well, one thing we will need from council will be ideas, 35, 45, 55, whatever numbers those might be. Steps that you can also do from, say, 70 down to 55, you know, does it go in steps or does it go all at once? So whatever council wants to do, then we can get the resolution written up and get it to them.
May I ask a question about this
Yes,
topic? And we can only impact changes in the city limits, correct? Or is that
Well,
not correct?
directly correct, but indirectly, just due to the amount of, the limitations on how quick you can increase and decrease the speeds, that would have an effect on things outside,
Okay.
potentially have an effect on
Okay.
things outside
Okay.
of the city. And my understanding, just to clarify this, Jay, is that Dale requested that first we
Okay, but
just
let's discuss
request
this
from
actually when
them.
it's on the agenda, so,
Well, that's the sole purpose.
Glenn? Okay. Any future agenda items? Okay, item B, announcement by council, don't forget YOLO next Tuesday. Thursday at 2 o'clock, we'll be opening up the RFQs. We'll be bringing those to council on the 16th. Anything else happening? I don't think of anything. Bryce?
Motion to adjourn.
Bryce makes motion to adjourn. Second? Rebecca, second.
Discussion?
Do it.
I just wanted to, I think the stock show starts, what, next weekend? Or next week?
Is it next week? The junior
Right.
production?
determine
Our
what
junior
date that
livestock
is.
show?
That's why they don't make the announcement, I don't
Yeah,
know.
it's next week.
I know there's a taco sale.
Well, it is that time of year.
It is.
They have a permit?
9th, 10th, and 11th,
9th, 10th, 11th.
yeah. I think. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
Thank you. All right, all in favor? All in favor, none opposed. 6:40.